You thought the holidays would bring clarity. You thought maybe the season would soften something, shift something, open a door that had been closed for too long. But instead, you feel nothing. Not sadness, not longing, not even anger. Just this quiet, settled knowing that something has finished inside you. You look at your phone and realize you're not waiting for his name to appear anymore. You think about the connection and notice the charge is gone. Not because you stopped caring, but because your body stopped believing. The holidays didn't bring you closure. They revealed that closure had already happened. Somewhere between the last unanswered message and the silence that followed, your nervous system made a decision your heart hadn't consciously chosen yet. It decided it was done. And now, as the holiday decorations come down and the new year stretches ahead, you're standing in this strange, quiet space wondering what just happened. Wondering why you feel so calm when you thought you'd feel devastated. Wondering if this means it's finally over, or if this is just another layer of the journey peeling away. If you felt this shift, this unexpected emotional completion after the holidays, I want you to know you're not alone. Drop a comment below and share where you are in your journey right now. Or simply type "I choose my peace" to claim this energy. And if these messages speak to your soul, subscribe so you never miss the guidance that's meant for you. The holidays carry a frequency that the twin flame journey cannot hide from. It is a time when presence becomes undeniable and absence becomes impossible to justify. For months, maybe even years, you were able to hold space for potential. You could interpret silence as divine timing. You could translate distance as necessary separation. You could believe that love was still alive in the space between you, even when that space felt infinite. But the holidays don't allow for that kind of emotional translation. They strip everything down to what is actually here, what is actually being lived, not imagined. And when you're surrounded by family, by warmth, by the energy of togetherness, the absence of your twin flame doesn't just sting anymore. It clarifies. It shows you in sharp relief what has been true all along. This connection has been sustained more by your hope than by his presence, more by your emotional labor than by mutual effort, more by what you believed it could become than by what it actually is. This is why so many divine feminines feel emotionally done after the holidays. Not because something ended during that time, but because something was revealed. The holidays act as a mirror, reflecting back the truth of where you actually stand in this journey. And for the first time, maybe, you're not trying to change what you see in that mirror. You're not explaining it away. You're not softening it to make it more bearable. You're just seeing it. And in that seeing, something releases. For so long, you carried the emotional continuity of this connection. You were the one who remembered, the one who held the thread, the one who kept the flame alive even when he disappeared into silence. You told yourself this was your role, that the divine feminine holds space, that your love was strong enough to sustain both of you until he was ready. And maybe that was true for a season, but the holidays have a way of asking a question that can no longer be avoided. How long will you hold space for someone who isn't standing in it with you? How long will you wait for a man who keeps choosing distance over presence? How long will you interpret absence as love? Your nervous system has been asking these questions quietly for a long time. And during the holidays, when the world slows down and there's nowhere left to hide, your body finally answered. It said, "I'm done," not in anger, not in bitterness, just in truth. Your system recognized that waiting had become a way of abandoning yourself. That holding space had become a way of staying small. That loving him had required you to stop fully living your own life. And your body, in its wisdom, chose you. This is what emotional completion feels like. It doesn't arrive with drama or declaration. It arrives with stillness. You stop checking your phone with that familiar flutter of hope. You stop scanning every synchronicity for signs that he's thinking of you. You stop replaying old conversations, searching for hidden meaning, not because you decided to stop, but because the impulse itself has faded. Your energy is no longer leaking toward him. It's no longer orbiting the question of when he'll return, when he'll be ready, when the connection will finally become real in the physical. Your energy has come home to you. And from that place, everything looks different. Have you noticed that the holidays amplified everything you'd been trying not to feel? If there was distance, it felt wider. If there was silence, it felt louder. If there was absence, it became impossible to ignore. The holiday season doesn't just highlight connection, it exposes disconnection. And when you're in a twin flame dynamic where one person is running and the other is holding space, the holidays make that imbalance unbearable. Because this is a time when people come together, when families gather, when lovers make time for each other, when presence is the currency of love. And if your twin flame wasn't present, if he didn't reach out, if he remained distant or surface level or emotionally unavailable, your body registered that, not as a personal failure, but as information, as truth. And here's what's really happening beneath the surface. The divine feminine reaches a point in the journey where her tolerance for emotional imbalance collapses, not because she's giving up, but because she's growing up. She's maturing past the version of herself that believed love meant enduring, waiting, hoping without evidence. She's stepping into the version of herself that understands love is not supposed to hurt this much. Love is not supposed to require this much effort. Love, real love, is supposed to feel like coming home, not like standing outside in the cold, waiting for someone to open the door. The holidays brought you face to face with this truth, and instead of fighting it, instead of trying to make excuses for him or for the connection, you let it land. You let yourself feel the full weight of how one-sided this has been, how much you've been carrying alone, how exhausting it's been to keep believing in something that only exists in potential, never in presence. And in that moment of honest reckoning, your heart made a choice. It chose peace over pain. It chose clarity over confusion. It chose you. This is not the end of your twin flame journey, but it is the end of a chapter. The chapter where you were willing to sacrifice your own emotional well-being to keep the connection alive. The chapter where his readiness mattered more than your peace. The chapter where you believed that loving him meant waiting for him, no matter how long, no matter the cost. That chapter is complete, and what's emerging now is something far more powerful. A version of you that loves herself as much as she loved him. A version of you that refuses to abandon herself for anyone, even a soul connection. A version of you that understands union cannot be built on the foundation of one person doing all the work. Let's go deeper into what the holidays revealed, because this isn't just about him not showing up. It's about what his absence illuminated in you. For months, maybe years, you've been living in a state of emotional suspension. Part of you here in your actual life, and part of you there in the possibility of what could be with him. You've been split, divided, waiting for the future to validate the present, and that state of suspension requires an enormous amount of energy to maintain. It requires you to stay hopeful even when reality offers no evidence. It requires you to stay open even when you're being met with walls. It requires you to keep believing even when your body is screaming that something is wrong. The holidays didn't create this split, but they made it visible. Because during the holidays, you couldn't distract yourself with work, with busyness, with the constant motion of daily life. You had to sit with yourself. You had to feel what you'd been avoiding, and what you felt was exhaustion. Soul, deep exhaustion from carrying a connection that was never meant to be carried alone. From holding a vision that he wasn't holding with you. From waiting for a man who kept choosing everything but you. And here's the truth that might be hard to hear but necessary to integrate. His absence during the holidays wasn't about divine timing. It wasn't about him needing more space to heal. It wasn't about the universe keeping you apart until you're both ready. It was about him making a choice. Maybe not a conscious choice, maybe not a malicious choice, but a choice nonetheless. He chose not to reach out. He chose not to show up. He chose not to make you a priority. And you can spiritualize that all you want. You can wrap it in the language of soul contracts and karmic clearing and divine masculine awakening. But at the end of the day, his choice left you alone during a time when connection matters most. Your body registered that, and your body, in its infinite wisdom, decided it was done accepting crumbs, done making excuses, done waiting for a man to choose you when you've been choosing him all along. This is what emotional completion looks like. It's your system finally aligning with the truth your heart has been avoiding. It's your nervous system saying, I will no longer participate in dynamics that require me to abandon myself. I will no longer stay open to people who are not equally invested. I will no longer wait for love that doesn't show up. Have you felt this shift? This quiet, unshakable knowing that you're done. Not done with love. Not done with the possibility of union. But done with this version of the journey. Done with the waiting. Done with the one-sidedness. Done with the emotional labor of keeping a connection alive that he's not helping to sustain. This shift is sacred. It's not a failure. It's an initiation. You're being initiated into a version of yourself that will no longer tolerate being treated as an option. A version of yourself that understands her worth is not determined by whether he's ready. A version of yourself that knows she is the prize, not the one waiting to be chosen. And here's where it gets interesting. The moment you step into this energy, the moment you truly release the need for him to validate the connection, everything shifts. Not because you're playing games, not because you're trying to manipulate him into coming back, but because you've changed the frequency you're operating from. You're no longer broadcasting need, longing, waiting. You're broadcasting wholeness, sovereignty, peace. And that frequency is magnetic in a way that chasing never was. But here's the paradox. You can't step into this frequency to get him back. You have to step into it for you. You have to choose your peace because your peace matters, not because it might finally make him wake up. You have to release him because holding on is killing you, not because letting go is a strategy. The moment you try to use your healing as a tool to attract him, you're still operating from the old paradigm. You're still making him the center. You're still abandoning yourself. True emotional completion means you're done even if he never comes back. You're at peace even if union never happens in this lifetime. You're whole even if he stays in separation forever. That's the frequency that changes everything. Not because it guarantees he'll return, but because it guarantees you'll be okay either way. And that, beloved, is freedom. So what happens now? What happens after the holidays when you're standing in this space of emotional completion, this quiet certainty that something has ended? First, you honor it. You don't try to talk yourself out of it. You don't let well-meaning friends or spiritual teachers convince you that you're giving up, that you're not being patient enough, that you're blocking your union. You trust what your body is telling you. You trust that this completion is not a mistake. It's a recalibration. Your system is choosing health over habit, alignment over attachment, truth over fantasy. Second, you let yourself grieve, not the loss of him, but the loss of the story you'd been telling yourself. The story that he was going to wake up and come back, and you'd finally have the love you've been waiting for. The story that all this pain had a purpose, that the waiting would be worth it, that the universe was just testing you before delivering your reward. That story is dying, and it's okay to mourn it. It's okay to feel sad that things didn't unfold the way you hoped. It's okay to acknowledge that this hurts, even as you know it's right. Third, you reclaim your energy. All the energy you've been sending his way, all the emotional labor you've been pouring into the connection, all the hope and longing and waiting, you call it back. You visualize it returning to you, filling you up, nourishing you. You redirect that energy toward your own life, your own dreams, your own healing. You stop living in the future with him and start living in the present with yourself. And fourth, you open yourself to what wants to come through this space you've created. Because here's what most people don't tell you about emotional completion. It's not an ending, it's a clearing. You're making space for something new. Maybe that something new is a deeper relationship with yourself. Maybe it's a creative project that's been waiting for your attention. Maybe it's a completely different romantic connection. Maybe it's him, but a version of him that's finally ready to meet you as an equal. You don't know yet. And that's okay. You don't need to know. You just need to trust that by choosing yourself, by honoring your completion, by refusing to stay in dynamics that diminish you, you're aligning with something better. Let's talk about what's happening on his side, because even though you're done, even though you've released him, there's a part of you that wonders if he feels this shift. And the answer is yes. He feels it. Maybe not consciously, maybe not in a way he can articulate, but energetically, he knows something has changed. The divine feminine's energy has been the anchor of this connection. You've been the one holding the frequency, maintaining the bond, keeping the door open. And now that you've stepped back, now that you've withdrawn your energy, there's a void. At first, he might not notice. He might be too caught up in his own world, his own distractions, his own avoidance. But eventually, it will hit him. The absence of your presence. The silence where there used to be energetic reaching. The space where you used to be. And that absence will trigger something in him. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because your energy was real. Your love was real. And now that it's no longer available in the same way, he'll feel the loss. But here's what you need to understand. His awakening, if it happens, is not your responsibility. You are not here to save him. You are not here to wait for him to get his act together. You are not here to be the patient, understanding woman who holds space while he figures himself out. You've done that. You've played that role, and it didn't work. Not because you didn't do it well enough, but because that dynamic was never going to lead to union. Union requires two people who are equally committed, equally present, equally willing to do the work. And he hasn't been that. So your job now is not to wait for him to become that. Your job is to live your life so fully, so beautifully, so completely that whether he shows up or not becomes irrelevant. And here's the sacred paradox. The moment you truly release the outcome, the moment you genuinely stop needing him to come back, that's when union becomes possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. Because union can only happen between two sovereign beings. Two people who are whole on their own, who choose each other from a place of fullness, not need. As long as you were waiting for him, as long as you needed him to validate the connection, you weren't sovereign. You were dependent, and dependence cannot create union. Only sovereignty can. So this emotional completion you're feeling, this sense of being done, it's not the end of your union potential. It's the beginning. It's the moment you step into the frequency that makes union possible. But you have to mean it. You have to genuinely release him. You have to genuinely choose yourself. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to be complete while secretly hoping he'll notice and come running back. Your nervous system knows the truth, and so does his. The holidays gave you a gift, even though it didn't feel like one at the time. In fact, it probably felt like the opposite of a gift. It might have felt like abandonment, like rejection, like confirmation of your deepest fears. The silence was deafening. The absence was palpable. The empty space where you hoped connection would be felt like a void that swallowed everything you'd been holding onto. You may have spent those days checking your phone, hoping for a message that never came. You may have replayed memories, wondering how someone who once felt like home could suddenly feel like a stranger. You may have cried, raged, bargained with the universe, or simply sat in the hollow ache of disappointment. But beneath all of that pain, beneath all of that longing, something else was happening. Something profound, something necessary. They gave you clarity, not the kind of clarity that comes from explanations or closure conversations, not the kind that comes from finally understanding his perspective or hearing the words you've been waiting for. No, this was a different kind of clarity, the kind that bypasses the mind and lands directly in the body. The kind that doesn't need to be explained because it's simply known. The holidays showed you the truth of where you stand, not where you wish you stood, not where you hoped you'd be by now, not where he promised you'd be or where the connection seemed to be heading. but where you actually, truly, undeniably stand. And that truth, as painful as it was to see, was the gift. Because you can't transform what you won't acknowledge. You can't heal what you refuse to see. You can't move forward while you're still pretending you're somewhere you're not. The holidays revealed that you've been holding this connection alone, carrying it, nurturing it, protecting it, believing in it, fighting for it, while he's been absent, unavailable, inconsistent, or simply not matching your energy. This isn't about vilifying him or making him wrong. This is about seeing the reality of the dynamic. You've been the one doing the emotional labor. You've been the one keeping the flame alive. You've been the one making excuses, extending grace, holding space, and waiting patiently for him to step into the connection with the same depth and commitment you've been offering all along. And in that revelation, painful as it was, they freed you. They freed you from the prison of waiting, from the exhaustion of hoping, from the pain of loving someone who isn't meeting you. Because once you truly see that you've been doing this alone, once you feel in your bones the imbalance of the dynamic, once you stop being able to unsee the truth, something shifts. The spell breaks. The fantasy dissolves. The story you've been telling yourself about what this is and where it's going loses its power. And in that dissolution, there's liberation. You're free now. Free in a way you haven't been in months, maybe years. Free to live. Free to choose. Free to be. Free from the constant mental and emotional occupation of wondering about him, analyzing him, waiting for him, hoping he'll change, hoping he'll see you, hoping he'll finally be ready. And from this place of freedom, from this place of clarity, from this place of finally seeing what is rather than what you wish could be, you get to decide what comes next. This is your power point. This is where your sovereignty returns. This is where you reclaim your agency in a situation where you may have felt powerless for far too long. Maybe you decide you're open to union if he does the work, if he shows up, if he proves through consistent action that he's ready. Maybe you set that boundary clearly in your own heart. I'm not closed to this, but I'm also not waiting anymore. If he rises to meet me, if he demonstrates real change, if he shows me through his behavior, and not just his words that he's capable of the partnership I deserve, then I'm willing to explore that. But it has to be real. It has to be sustained. It has to be more than promises and potential. Maybe you decide you're done with this connection entirely, that the pain has outweighed the love, that you're ready to move on. Maybe you've reached the point where it doesn't matter what he does or doesn't do. Because the damage is done, the trust is broken. The pattern has repeated too many times. Maybe you've finally hit your limit, and you know with absolute certainty that you need to close this chapter, grieve it, and walk away for good. Maybe your soul is screaming that staying open to this connection, even conditionally, is keeping you tethered to something that's meant to be released. And if that's your truth, that's valid. That's not giving up. That's not failing. That's honoring yourself. Maybe you decide you're not deciding anything, that you're just going to live your life and let the universe handle the details. Maybe you're in a place where you're simply tired of analyzing, tired of strategizing, tired of trying to figure out what the right choice is. Maybe you're surrendering the whole thing, not from a place of passivity, but from a place of trust. Trust that if this connection is meant to manifest in union, it will, without you forcing it or waiting for it or sacrificing yourself for it. Trust that if it's not meant to be, something better is. Trust that your job isn't to figure out his journey or manage the connection, but simply to live your life fully and let what's meant for you find you. All of these choices are valid. All of these choices are yours to make. There's no wrong answer here. There's only your truth, and your truth might be different tomorrow than it is today, and that's okay too. What's not valid anymore is staying in the old pattern. The pattern of waiting, hoping, holding space for someone who isn't holding space for you. The pattern of making yourself small, available, patient, understanding, while he does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, with no regard for your heart or your needs. The pattern of convincing yourself that if you just love him enough, if you just believe in the connection enough, if you just give him enough time and space, he'll eventually show up. That pattern is complete. It's done. It's over. Your body has released it. And this is important to understand. This isn't just a mental shift. This isn't just a decision you're making with your mind. Your nervous system has shifted. Your body has recalibrated. The part of you that was willing to tolerate that dynamic has evolved beyond it. And if you try to go back to it, you'll feel the resistance. You'll feel how wrong it is, how misaligned, how much it costs you. It will feel like trying to wear clothes that are 3 sizes too small. It will feel suffocating, constricting, painful. Your body will rebel. Your intuition will scream. You'll feel sick, anxious, depleted. Because once you've outgrown something, once you've evolved beyond a pattern, trying to squeeze yourself back into it is a form of self-betrayal. And your system knows it. So don't go back. Don't let guilt or fear or loneliness pull you back into a dynamic that your soul has outgrown. Don't let his sudden attention, if it comes, seduce you back into the old pattern. Don't let your fear of losing the connection forever convince you to accept breadcrumbs. Don't let your loneliness in the aftermath of this release make you forget why you released it in the first place. Trust the completion. Trust that your body knows what it's doing. Trust that this ending is making space for a beginning, even if you can't see what that beginning looks like yet, even if you feel empty and lost and uncertain, even if part of you wants to go back to the familiar pain because at least it was familiar. Don't. Stay in the unknown. Stay in the discomfort. Stay in the truth. You might be wondering if this means you're closing your heart, if choosing yourself means you're giving up on love, if setting boundaries means you're becoming hard, cynical, or guarded. If walking away from this connection means you're turning your back on your twin flame, on divine union, on the spiritual journey you've been on. And the answer is no. Absolutely not. You're not closing your heart. You're protecting it. You're honoring it. You're treating it with the reverence and care it deserves. You're refusing to let it be trampled by someone who isn't ready to cherish it. You're refusing to leave it exposed and vulnerable to someone who's demonstrated through their actions that they can't or won't handle it with care. There's a difference between an open heart and a boundaryless heart. An open heart can still say no. An open heart can still have standards. An open heart can still require reciprocity, consistency, respect, and presence. An open heart can still walk away from what doesn't serve. An open heart can still choose peace over pain. In fact, an open heart must be able to do these things, or it's not truly open, it's just unprotected. True openness includes discernment. True love includes self-love. True spirituality includes healthy boundaries. What you're doing is not closing, it's discerning, it's maturing. It's evolving from unconscious love to conscious love. You're learning to direct your love toward people and situations that can receive it, that can reciprocate it, that can honor it. You're learning that your love is precious, that it's powerful, that it's not meant to be poured into vessels that leak or reject it. You're learning that loving someone doesn't mean accepting whatever they offer. That honoring a connection doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. That believing in someone's potential doesn't mean ignoring their current reality. And if he's not one of those people right now, if he's not capable of receiving, reciprocating, and honoring your love right now, that's information. That's not a judgment. That's not a condemnation. That's not a reflection of your worth or the validity of the connection. It's just the truth of where he is, and you're allowed to stop waiting for him to be somewhere different. You're allowed to accept reality as it is, not as you wish it were. You're allowed to make decisions based on what is, not what might be someday. The holidays are over. The decorations are coming down. The lights are being packed away. The tree is being dismantled. The new year is here. And you're standing in this liminal space, this in-between place, where the old has ended and the new hasn't fully formed yet. You're no longer who you were, but you're not yet fully who you're becoming. You're in the chrysalis. You're in the void. You're in the sacred darkness where transformation occurs. It's uncomfortable. It's uncertain. It's disorienting. You might feel unmoored, untethered, lost. You might not recognize yourself. You might not know what you want or where you're going or who you are without this connection at the center of your life. But it's also sacred, because this is the space where transformation happens. This is the space where you shed the skin of who you were and step into who you're becoming. This is the death that precedes rebirth. This is the dissolution that precedes reformation. This is the emptying that precedes filling. The woman who waited is dying. The woman who accepted less than she deserved is dying. The woman who made herself small is dying. The woman who prioritized his journey over her own is dying. The woman who believed she needed him to be whole is dying. And the woman who knows her worth is being born. And this new version of you, she's different. She's not interested in crumbs. She's not interested in potential. She's not interested in someday, maybe, when he's ready. She's not interested in being an option, a backup plan, a safe harbor he returns to when he's done exploring other things. She's interested in presence, in consistency, in effort, in reciprocity, in a love that shows up, that chooses her, that meets her where she is, in a love that doesn't require her to beg, chase, convince, or wait, in a love that's clear, committed, and conscious. And if that love comes from him, beautiful. If he does the work, if he heals, if he evolves, if he shows up as the partner you deserve, wonderful. The door isn't necessarily closed, but it's also not wide open anymore. There are requirements now. There are standards. There are boundaries. If it comes from someone else, beautiful. If the universe brings you someone who's already ready, someone who sees you and chooses you and loves you without all the drama and confusion and pain, someone who makes you wonder why you ever accepted less. That's beautiful too. You're not going to reject that because you're attached to a story about who your person is supposed to be. If it comes from her own relationship with herself and the divine, beautiful. If you discover that the love you were seeking externally was always available internally. If you fall in love with your own life, if you find that union with yourself and with Source is so fulfilling that partnership becomes optional rather than necessary, that's beautiful too. She's not attached to the Source. She's committed to the frequency. She knows what love is supposed to feel like now. She knows what peace feels like. She knows what respect feels like. She knows what reciprocity feels like. And she's not willing to accept anything less, regardless of where it's coming from or what label it has. This is what the holidays revealed, that you're ready for more, that you deserve more, that you will no longer accept less. And that readiness, that knowing, that boundary, it changes everything. Not overnight, not in some dramatic, visible way. Not in a way that you'll necessarily be able to track or measure in the moment. But slowly, steadily, certainly, your life begins to reorganize around this new truth. Your energy shifts, your vibration rises, your frequency changes, and reality responds. Opportunities that match your frequency start to appear. People who can meet you start to show up. Doors that were closed start to open. Synchronicities increase. Things start flowing more easily. You start feeling more aligned, more at peace, more yourself. Not because you're doing anything to make it happen. Not because you're manifesting or affirming or visualizing, but because you've removed the blocks. You've stopped pouring your energy into a dead end. You've stopped leaking your power into a connection that wasn't reciprocating it. You've freed yourself to receive what's actually meant for you. So, beloved, let this be your reminder. Let this be the truth that anchors you when you're tempted to go back. When you're feeling lonely, when you're doubting yourself, when he suddenly reaches out and part of you wants to fall right back into the old pattern. You were never waiting for him. You were always waiting for yourself. Waiting for the moment you'd be brave enough to choose your own peace. Waiting for the moment you'd be strong enough to walk away from what's hurting you. Waiting for the moment you'd be clear enough to see that love is not supposed to feel like this. That real love doesn't require you to abandon yourself. That true partnership doesn't feel like a constant battle. That divine union doesn't leave you depleted, confused, and heartbroken. That moment is now. The holidays gave it to you. The clarity, the release, the freedom, the shift. And now it's yours to claim. Now it's yours to embody. Now it's yours to live from. You don't have to go back and get it. You don't have to wait for another catalyst. You don't have to hit rock bottom again. It's here. It's now. It's yours. You are not just the doorway. You are the temple. You are not just the space holder. You are the space. You are not just the witness. You are the presence. You are not waiting for union. You are union. You are the merger of masculine and feminine. You are the integration of human and divine. You are the embodiment of love. And the moment you fully embody that truth, the moment you stop looking outside yourself for completion, the moment you recognize that what you've been seeking has been within you all along, everything that's meant for you will find you. Not because you chased it, not because you earned it, not because you manifested it or did the right spiritual practice or figured out the perfect strategy. But because you became it, you became the frequency of what you desire. You became the embodiment of the love you were seeking. You became the union you were waiting for. Ask yourself one final time, am I still waiting, or have I finally come home to myself? Am I still organizing my life around his journey, his timeline, his readiness? Am I still making myself small, available, patient, hoping he'll finally see me? Am I still in the old pattern, the old story, the old identity? Or have I stepped into something new? Have I reclaimed my power? Have I remembered my worth? Have I come home to the truth of who I am? Because the moment you choose the latter, the moment you root yourself in your own worth, your own wholeness, your own life, the journey transforms. It stops being about him and starts being about you. It stops being about union and starts being about alignment. It stops being about waiting and starts being about living. And that, beloved, is when the magic happens. That's when miracles occur. That's when everything shifts. That's when union becomes possible. Not as something you need to complete yourself, but as something you allow because you're already complete. Not as something you chase to fill a void, but as something that meets you in your fullness. Not as something you manipulate or force or wait for, but as something that unfolds naturally when you're vibrating at the frequency of your truth. Tell me in the comments, have you felt this shift after the holidays? This unexpected sense of completion, this quiet knowing that you're done waiting. What changed in you when you finally chose yourself? Your insight may be the medicine another soul needs today.